Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rural Rapport. My name is Teresa Hoffman. I'm the Policy Communications Associate here at the Center for Rural Affairs. As we're waiting for people to join us, let me tell you a little bit about the Center. Established in 1973, the Center for Rural Affairs exists to create vibrant rural communities. We do this through small business training and lending, working with communities, farmers and ranchers, and policy change. On today's Rural Rapport, I'm joined by Center Policy Associate Kalee Olson to talk about a new series of resources developed by the Center designed to help farmers and ranchers begin to implement conservation practices on their land. Thank you, Kalee, for joining us.
Thanks, Teresa.
Kalee, what topics are covered in these information guides?
Sure. So there are actually 6 guides total, and I think it's helpful to break them down in a few ways. The first information guide focuses on working with your local USDA service center, whose offices, which include the Farm Service Agency and Natural Resources Conservation Service, administer the federal conservation programs that we're going to be talking about today. The second guide provides an overview of these working lands conservation programs, and the remaining 4 take a more in-depth look into these programs, with 2 focusing on the Conservation Stewardship Program, which we more commonly refer to as CSP, and 2 focus on the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which we often refer to as EQIP.
Can you briefly describe those programs?
Sure. So both programs are designed to provide technical and financial assistance to farmers and ranchers who want to implement conservation on their operations while still using the land for agricultural production. So that's kind of what we're referring to when we say working lands. There are 2 main things that differentiate these programs from each other. And those are, number 1, how much experience the producer already has with conservation. And number 2, whether or not the entire farm will be enrolled into the program. So CSP is for producers who are already addressing resource priorities and want to expand conservation across their entire farm or ranch. And EQIP is for producers with any range of conservation experience who want to implement their conservation on a more case-by-case level.
What's the purpose of these information guides?
Sure, so I'll provide a little bit of background to this question. Staff at the Center for Rural Affairs have been communicating with producers throughout the Midwest for multiple years. And as a result of these conversations, we've been able to consolidate a lot of feedback from farmers and ranchers to identify common questions they have about conservation and working lands programs. So things that come up fairly often for us are questions like, what conservation practices are applicable to me? And can I apply for a federal cost share program if I rent my ground? So based on those conversations we had, we thought, why not put together some resources that are all in one place to answer some of these questions? So in addition to answering these questions, kind of like I talked about, the goal is also that these guides provide a baseline understanding of how to develop a relationship with local USDA service centers and enrolled in either CSP or EQIP. And it's also worth noting here that while these guides do provide a lot of helpful information, it's absolutely essential that farmers and ranchers develop a working relationship with their county Natural Resources Conservation Service office, because they're really the experts who are going to be helping you out, guiding the application process and answering the questions that you have along the way.
Great, you talk about that relationship. If I'm, someone who's interested in getting started, where can I find my local USDA office?
Sure. So about every county should have a local USDA office, but the easiest way to find out where yours is located is to get online and visit farmers.gov. And there you'll find a tab called Working with Us, and you'll be kind of guided to their service center locator. You'll enter your state and county, and then it will show you the address for the office that serves your area. However, if you are interested in these guides, a direct link to the webpage is also listed on the fact sheet titled what to know about working with your local USDA service center.
Great. We've also included a link in the comment section here on Facebook, so that will take you to that page as well. So we talked a lot about how these guides were developed, what they include. Now, who would benefit from these guides?
Sure. So these guides are for any farmer and rancher who is interested in incorporating conservation into their operation. Be that a farmer who's grown corn and soybeans for a couple of decades, or an organic farmer who is in their first year or two of production. We really like to emphasize that these programs are for anyone who's interested. And it's also important to note here that any size of operation can apply, and renters are eligible as well.
Are there any topics covered in these fact sheets that you'd like to point out, give some more information about?
Sure. So in addition to questions about eligibility, we fielded a lot of questions about payments. Both CSP and EQIP are federal cost share programs. So what this means is that via these programs, the federal government is essentially splitting the cost to implement conservation practices with the producer. The important thing to remember, however, is that these are reimbursement programs. So farmers and ranchers need to have the finances available up front to get these practices off the ground. The exception to this is that EQIP offers an advanced payment option for historically underserved farmers. So that includes beginning farmers, veteran farmers, limited resource farmers, or farmers and ranchers of color. So it's important to let your NRCS representative know these distinguishers when you apply in case you're eligible for this option. That really helps people who have limited finances get these implemented. And of course, the information guides cover this in a bit more detail.
Well, let's talk about why conservation is important.
Sure. We often think about conservation in terms of our natural environment. I know that that's the first place that my mind goes to is, thinking about healthy soil, clean water, wildlife habitat. And these things are absolutely key outcomes of conservation. It's important to point out that an investment in the environment also increases the vitality of our farms, ranches, and rural communities. The two programs we cover in these guides, CSP and EQIP, are working lands programs. It creates a win-win scenario because farmers and ranchers are allowed to keep their ground in production and simultaneously implement practices that are good for the environment. And of course, conservation, it's something that affects everyone, whether you're local to a rural community or a ways down the watershed. It's always something that's important to pay attention to.
Great, that's great information to have, Kalee. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find all 6 of these information guides on our website, cfra.org/publications. And it's also noteworthy that these are available in English and Spanish. So you could go to our website and find those there. Thanks again for joining us for today's Rural Report. Just you can remember that you can follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, where we constantly share resources, events, and other information about the center. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you right back here next week for another Rural Report.